exactly 3 weeks ago this public hearing happened, because I think it was the following day that the indictments happened. And so we were unable to cover this public hearing, but this is a critical public hearing to us. This is subjective to us, right? It's on a subject that we've been covering since the beginning of Kandit, and it's the mandatory medical malpractice, pardon me, the medical malpractice mandatory arbitration act reform proposal. This has gone through a couple of iterations. At first you had, pardon me, at first you had then Speaker Therese Chalahi introduced legislation. It was heavily scrutinized. She produced a compromise version based on what the doctors and the nurses said at the public hearing then. But the doctor and nurses lobby was so powerful that they managed to just kill the bill. And so now comes Senator Will Parkinson in this term, and he produced Bill number 82. And Bill 82, as I understand it, is identical to Therese Chalahi, or nearly identical at least, to Therese Chalahi's then Bill 113, if I'm not mistaken, 113 or 112. It's one of those. Anyway, and so he introduced this bill, and it got the same sort of reaction that Therese Chalahi's bill got, the same sort of reception and the same sort of organizing and coordination by the doctors' lobby against this bill. What's different this time around is a couple of things. One, this bill seems to have the support of far more senators. And secondly, and you hear David Lebowski in the hearing talking about, he basically says, look, even if this bill doesn't pass, we're just going to wait for the next legislature and the next governor. And something's going to pass, doctors. There's going to be a version of this that passes. And so you may as well just come to the negotiating table now, sincerely, and with your sincere stated desire that you want the people of Guam, especially the poor and the middle class, to actually have access to the court system. And if doctors, what you're saying that you do want that to happen, you just think that the bill in its present form won't work. If you are serious, if you are sincere that you really want the people to have access to the court system, then sincerely come to the table, stop this politicking, stop this lobbying, stop this organizing that you guys are doing just to kill this bill, and with all your hyperbole and all of that, and come to the table and help to construct something that you think will work for you. And David Lebowski, he puts that out in this hearing. And so, the past 3 weeks, one of those weeks I was on vacation, and then the other 2 weeks really has just been, well, I just got my bearings back. I'm back at work, but the week prior to that was the indictment. I wasn't able to concentrate on that. So what I'm going to be providing to you now, and until we get all of these testimonies out, is segments of this public hearing. And I'm going to be providing you the segments of the public hearing that come from those who normally are voiceless, those who don't have money, those who, if not for this public hearing process by Senator Telo Taitague, because it was her committee that was put under, but not for this bill that Will Parkinson put out, would not have had a voice in a process like this. And so these are the voices that I want to bring to you. And so we start with Committee Chairwoman Senator Telo Taitague, followed by bill author Senator Will Parkinson. Then there is a doctor who gave testimony, I believe, in favor of the bill, and then David Lebowski. And just as a refresher, David Lebowski is the man who got this whole thing started. This whole look at medical malpractice mandatory arbitration act reform. Following the untimely death of his 5-year-old son on October 31, 2018, Mr. Lebowski he pioneered this journey, this campaign, if you will, to reform the Medical Malpractice Act after finding out that the justice system is not available to people who don't have $100,000 to blow on the required medical malpractice that the law right now mandates. And otherwise, you're just out of luck. If you or someone you love is maimed or killed through medical negligence, medical malpractice, you cannot access the justice system according to the laws of Guam, built to protect doctors. So, without further ado, here is the first segment of our coverage of that public hearing by Senator Telo.
I believe you're muted. David, you're muted.
How's that?
Oh, we can hear you now. Thank you. Please go ahead. Okay.
So sorry. All right. Thank you, Senators, for allowing me to give testimony in support of Bill 8238 and to advocate to improve health care on Guam through medical accountability. I arrived on Guam more than 50 years ago. I have worked at several social service agencies in the government of Guam. I am a proud University of Guam graduate. My work life includes working with the most disadvantaged individuals of all ages on Guam. This is what separates me from the others giving Bill 8238 testimony who want to keep the status quo Mandatory Medical Malpractice Act, or MMAA, intact. I have no skin in the game, so to speak, outside of having a dead 5-year-old child that died from very documented wrongful death medical negligence, unlike those with pure financial loss concerns, apparently. The people I speak of and why I'm here and who I am here for today struggle just to get by on a daily basis with no recourse to resolve the medical negligence allegation and claims. No avenue to become whole again. They do not have $80,000 or $100,000 in their pocket to file the case, which is the estimated cost, if not more, under the MMAA. I have learned that people are often too embarrassed to write testimony or even challenge doctors when a loved one is injured or dies from alleged medical negligence, not to mention sexual misconduct. This is a big part of the reason that it took 35 years to get this issue of the lack of medical accountability caused by the MMAA to be brought to light. This is where we are today. When the MMAA was first introduced, as Senator Parkinson alluded to, it was done because of financial concerns. Doctors were doing too much testing. They were doing many treatments. They didn't want to leave any stone unturned. They wanted to make sure that all their diagnosis was correct and they couldn't be sued. Interesting, there wasn't that many malpractice lawsuits, but the financial burden of doing all those testing led to the enactment of the MMAA to save money. That was a full pendulum swing in the opposite direction to lessen concerns doctors have that they may be sued if a misdiagnosis, which then now leads to less diagnostic testing and exposing patients to medical misdiagnosis, lack of proper treatment, and sometimes medical apathy, which is probably why all the clinics are closed this morning to protest this. Bill 82 is not about malpractice. It is not about poor people who cannot afford arbitration. And if it's sure, it's not about my son Asher. Asher's gone. There's been many, many since then, hundreds maybe. It is about having a fair, affordable system for all medical consumers on Guam to be able to have their claims heard and attempt to become whole again, to protect their rights, to improve medical care, and to protect the medical community against frivolous lawsuits. Guam has great doctors. I've had some of the best doctors in my life on Guam. But when great doctors protect doctors who have histories of negligence, that's where the problems start. Medical negligence is stated to be the third leading cause of death in the USA. Statistically, it is estimated that 10 people die per month on Guam due to medical negligence. It is also estimated that 1% of doctors commit 32% of medical malpractice nationally. This number is likely much higher on Guam with no current medical accountability or ability to identify these repeat medical negligent doctors or to provide mitigation to prevent such negligent reoccurrences due to the triple MAA. And this one is very affluent. Guam is the only place, as was mentioned, in the U.S. that affords this kind of cover-up or protection. The biggest myth that we're going to hear today, and we've heard, and by the way, for 5 years we've been discussing this, the biggest myth is that Guam will not be able to recruit or retain doctors if Bill 82 becomes law. This is absolutely not true. No one has shown statistics or recruiting issues that will back this up. I have been in meetings here at the legislature in the past when doctors were asked if they would leave if reforms were passed. Everyone said no. I have asked Guam doctors, many, the same question on my own. All said no. And I think if you ask those doctors sitting there right now, are you going to leave if this is passed? They will say no, because there is no place to go that they have less accountability. According to Dr. Shea, in one of his Guam posts, Guam does not need doctors. We need our specialists. The triple MAA makes recruiting specialists very difficult, as doctors on Guam are protected to work so that they can work outside of their own specialties. So when a new specialist arrives on Guam, he and she, in fact, must try to set up a practice not only with the small population on Guam, which makes it difficult, but making it even more difficult is that he or she must compete against other local doctors who are not specialists but have been practicing in the new doctor specialty area, making big bucks thanks to the triple MAA. Attorney Keogh in the 112 hearings called this malpractice in and of itself, working across trained fields into other areas. And triple MAA works against bringing specialists to Guam. As some of you know, presently there are serious allegations by one Guam doctor against another Guam doctor of doing procedures that may not be necessary with questionably trained staff using lower thresholds for prescribing treatments. The accusing doctor is told not to worry about malpractice when he was reluctant to do such things, such illegal things. He was told that no one would testify against him. These accusations, by the way, are documented, and some of you folks know about these. And they give a good example why the triple MAA has lived this life and why it has failed, and how the people of Guam may have been misdiagnosed, injured, and overcharged, all because of the protection that the law that everyone's sitting, and most people sitting there worships. Doctors come to Guam now with histories of medical negligence or sexual misconduct, and easily get licensed by the Guam Board of Medical Examiners. As much as they want to disagree. I've listened to almost every single board meeting over the last 6 years. They know they can work here without malpractice concerns and cannot work anywhere else in the country. They are not even required to have malpractice insurance. Some of these doctors, as we know, then come to Guam and injure a Guam patient. The past Assistant AG Rob Weinberg for the medical board stated that Guam is known as a place where washed-up doctors can find work. Let's thank that on the triple MAA, the protections. The only part of this bill that I would change is to not have the Guam Board of Medical Examiners involved. I know that's a big ask. They have a history in these 70 cases under Dr. Berg over the last 7 years of never, ever deciding a favor of a complaint against a doctor. 70 cases, none decided in a patient's favor. Statistically, nationally, impossible. Dr. Berg, the chair, has gone out of his way in meetings with senators and in the past to make sure that accountability doesn't come to fruition. Also, they have a history of not acting on impartial off-file investigation reports paid for by tax dollars that find fault with doctors. In summary, this is what I think, and my research shows. In summary, the Mandatory Medical Malpractice Arbitration Act makes it more difficult to recruit specialists to work on Guam. It prevents identifying repeat medical negligence offenders and providing mitigation before others are injured or killed. It allows, the AAMAA allows for fraudulent and unnecessary medical care by undertrained staff or doctors, knowing they will not be held accountable. It correlates, the AAMAA correlates with higher costs of medical care on Guam, with no control or monitoring of unnecessary procedures. It prevents adjudication and claims as allowed everywhere else in the country to make victims whole again or take care of long-term medical issues. It gives the financial responsibility to taxpayers and insurance companies through medical services required to pay for injured victims that need care when they cannot seek accountability for the injury from the medical field on Guam, raising costs for the rest of us on island. And it definitely correlates with the demise of medical care on Guam. I'll end by asking one question. Would you pass Bill 8238 if you knew it would save a child's life or several lives on Guam? This bill is about saving lives, not saving money for doctors. Not passing this bill means we have to continue to sacrifice our loved ones on Guam. And there are clear statistics that support this. I just want to say one last thing really quickly. We've been talking about this in 2019. It's been 5 years. There's been two other attempts, Bill 112, and there's one before that as well, to make changes in malpractice. Now you have a group of doctors running around closing their clinics saying, oh, we didn't know about this, we didn't know about this. They've known about it. We've been talking about it for 5 years. It's all over social media. No doctor made an attempt to try to make a change so that consumers and injured individuals are taken care of. And then they're surprised that this Bill 82 comes up. This is not the last attempt. If this bill fails under the next government, there's going to be another attempt. And I would suggest to you folks in the medical community, sit down with consumers, not just your own people, and come up with something that will benefit everyone before the legislature passes a bill that you're not going to like. And I hope 8238 is that bill. Thank you very much, Senators. I appreciate it. Have a nice day.
Thank you so much, and thank you for joining us.
We got that dynamite. We got that dynamite.
Find the perfect ride for you today with the New Year New Ride sales event at Guam Auto Spot. Get behind the wheel of the 2024 Outlander Sport, starting at just $22,995 or only $156 per paycheck. Visit Guam Auto